G'day everyone, Stephen here. Today I want to try something a little bit unconventional. I've been toying with the idea of making a really lightweight backpacker rocket stove. I'm actually not sure at the end of the day whether this will still technically be a rocket stove, but it's going to have some similarities to a rocket stove and wood gasifier. And I'm yet to see whether or not this idea will even work. But the essential setup will be, I'm going to cut some spaces that will keep this central inside this cutlery holder. This is just a cheap, I think it was like $4 or $5 at a dollar shop cutlery holder. Put your knives and forks in it when you're washing up to let them dry. This is some 100mm stainless steel pipe, and that's going to be somewhere there, and the rest will hopefully become obvious as we go along. But there is going to be a hole in the side where you can feed the wood in, and the air is going to come via the holes around the outside. Hopefully the drawer will, because the air is going to be rushing past this outer cylinder as it draws through, I'm hoping that'll preheat the air somewhat, maybe make a better burn. That's all theory at the moment. We're going to put it to test. Something I'd like to point out is that for this build there is no welding, so it should be fairly straightforward. I shouldn't have to strike an arc at all. So everything's going to be bolted together, bolted, riveted, whatever you have available, you know, use that. This isn't like, there isn't a set rule. I'm probably going to notch in the top a pot holder. The idea of the notches are that you don't have to weld anything to this. You need somewhere for the air to go. If you stick a pot straight on top of this, the air's got nowhere to go. You're going to snuff the fire out, essentially. So a few notches created around the top, either in a castle shape or triangular, will be fine. I'm going to go triangular just because it's easier to do. This is only 0.6 stainless steel. It's extremely light. This would be, it looks about 1.5, 100mm diameter. This thing is, it's 120mm, thereabouts. It's fairly nominal. It's not exactly round at the top. It's a little bit, it's very squishy. Okay, that's good. Now, this really isn't the best sort to be cutting this stuff, but it's what I have plugged in. And so I don't have to remeasure each one. I'm just going to put a little pen mark here on the cutting deck. And that'll work as a bit of a rough guide. That stuff you can see floating in the air is sawdust. What I just did, as a quick recap, is I've cut two pieces of wood. They're about 25mm each, giving us a combined total of 50mm. And there, I'm going to drop those in there. And that's going to set the height of where this internal sleeve sort of fits. It's not going to be perfect, but it's going to get me in the ballpark, just so I can mark where I would need to drill the holes where I'm going to attach these spaces. I don't know if that'll come out on camera, but there are some nice little marks there. This is a piece of railroad iron that someone has cut into a miniature anvil. This is really handy. This is a great bit of kit to have in your shed. I didn't make this. I actually found it underneath a house that I was renting, like way underneath there. We were cleaning up, we were moving to a new place, and I found it underneath there, so I couldn't let it go. And it has just been one of the handiest things to have, particularly for this sort of thing. So I know there was talk of nuts and bolts before holding this center sleeve in place, but after rummaging through what I've got lying around, the self-tapping screw seems to be the best option I have available. You could use a nut and a bolt, a rivet, anything you like, just as long as it's long enough. This is going to be too long, but the screw protruding into the combustion chamber isn't going to be a big deal. It is going to look a bit ugly, but this is an experiment, and the prototype is always not where the end product wants to be. So in saying that, I know I don't have to pre-drill a hole, but it is stainless steel, and I want to give this self-tapping screw the best chance possible. So I'm just going to drill a hole the same diameter as the end of this self-tapper. Now, before I screw this thing into position, I really should be thinking about where I want the where I want to insert the fuel and also the pot holder. We'll go with 3. We'll keep it the same as what we've got the screws. 3 V's. And I'm also going to notch in here just a square opening for where the fuel's going to go in. And I'll use a hole saw to punch through this once it's all sort of in there and lined up. So let's do that. Just want to mark how far down I can go. I know this isn't super accurate, but for what it is, for what I'm trying to achieve, it doesn't need to be super accurate. This can be as accurate or as inaccurate as you like. There just needs to be provision for the fuel, for the air to be able to escape around whatever you're putting on top. I'm going to line my holes up roughly with where the screws are going to go through. So they're all lined up now. And I'm going to eyeball this using these holes as a reference. 3 positions. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Let's get the set square. Okay, it's taken a little bit of fluffing around to get that close, but I'm sort of half happy with that now. An easier way perhaps to do this would be to not do it at all. Oh dear, you could just drill holes around the top if you wanted to. You don't have to notch it out. I find notching is a little bit quicker than drilling holes, though you have to mark it out. So it's up to you, drill holes or notch it. So if you didn't feel like mucking around like I have to notch this out and you did just want to drill holes, make sure that that the holes, there are enough of them that you'll be confident that it's going to let air out. You're not going to choke it when you stick something on top. So it's going to take quite a few holes, but you know, you could do it. If you want those holes to be really nice and even, you need to work out the circumference. That's the distance around the outside. The easiest way to do that is to measure the diameter, in this case it's 100 mil, and then times the diameter by 3.142, so that's pi, and then divide that by 12 or whatever you want, and that will give you your physical measurement to go around the outside. And then just get a set of dividers and make a mark and step it out. And you'll find that you'll probably need to step it out 3 or 4 times before you get it perfect, and that's called trial and error. And you'll just have to scratch around. The first time you go around, don't do it too heavy, because if you're going to do it a few more times to get it perfect, then you want to keep track of which trip around was which. So just keep them light, and then once you're happy with your spacing, then center pop and go from there. So I hope that makes sense. That's another way of doing it. So we need an opening in this outer shell so we can put wood in there. It is going to be fed from the side. I think that if I had a fine-toothed hole saw, I'd give it a go and drill through this, but it'd have to be a fine-tooth saw. I don't have one of those, and I have a very strong feeling that if I try to cut through this with what I've got, the coarse tooth, it will rip it to shreds and make a terrible mess. So I'm opting for a square hole. And I also want a corresponding hole in this side. I could put the fuel directly in the bottom, but I don't think it'll have enough draw if I do that. I kind of want to insert the fuel halfway up, sort of on the edge. It'll sort of half come in within this, if that makes sense. It'll make sense at the end. I'm sorry, I'm not the best at explaining myself sometimes. So I'm going to put the spacers back in. Line up our mounting holes and pick a side. So let's go over here. Your cutlery holder might be different if you want to try to make this, so you're going to have to be a little bit creative, but in this case this one's worked really well. So I'm just going to cut around that. And if I'm careful, if I only cut along this line, I'm going to have a really nice round edge. Like it's not going to, yeah, it should turn out pretty neat if I'm careful enough of this with the grinder and don't sort of blow that corner out. All right. It sort of worked. I'm going to keep that, I'll show you why soon. That looks good. Now this is going to be the tricky part. You're going to need a pair of long nose pointy pliers. And I'm going to put the spacer on the inside. Oh gosh. Okay. This is going to be really... This is going to be a lot of fun. Let's pre-drill these. Okay. Well, that was a nightmare, but we're in. I'm going to leave those loose so I have a bit of adjustment. I'll hand tighten them later. This is where you'll get your fine adjustment to sort of level everything up. It's not perfect, but it's not too bad either. You've probably noticed I stuffed up here. Either the spacings are different or I stuffed up. It was probably me. But that is ready for a test burn. Something to hold the wood. And when you're finished, just squeeze it. And maybe store it in the top or down the side of it. That was a mistake. So at this point, I'm not sure if this is a rocket stove or a wood gasifier. Yeah. It's certainly pumping out some incredible heat. It's also going through the wood fairly quickly. Yeah. But it works, so I'll take it.